So when God decided to have a son, he did. This is the omnipresent God. The omnipresent God had a son, giving him not the same elements in himself, but those elements that will lead him eventually to the light in knowing that allows him to know everything. We know this as our own intellectual wisdom that leads us to the greater knowing and truth in a logic, that light and logic that we find that includes the truth knowing, in which we search through our wisdom. Our intellect joins with wisdom, searches through our emotional memories to try and understand the moment in the now. And it's through those emotional memories, that emotional knowledge base of self, that everything is understood. People who try to understand things cognitively by excluding the emotional part are spiritually dead inside, because it takes the acknowledgement of human emotion to feel alive spiritually. Anyway, the Son of God didn't know he had a father. He didn't know there was a Lord above him. So he thought he was the only Lord. He and his feminine element both calculated the thought of us, humans, their children. So they worked through it, and then he stopped working through it with his own wisdom. He left the wisdom, his own wisdom, to see if he's gotten everything right cognitively. And in Godland, because there are two separate gods in one God, male and female, masculine and feminine, they resolve themselves in male and female gods, husband and wife, mother and father. Now, Sophia, the name of his sacred feminine element, was felt abandoned, and she was mad at God for leaving her. So Sophia decided to want to create a baby on her own without the masculine element giving his part. So all this baby God had was the feminine element of the mother God, and nothing of the masculine element of the father God. So the little baby God that she gave birth to was incomplete. His incompleteness was to be the God for the humans. He's the one who made humans. It wasn't the Son of God. It was his son. It was the son of God. So, because he was incomplete, long time later, this God was cut off, and the complete God took over from being the influence. That's the whole trip for God, is to be our influence. Influence is in truth and logic, and intellect and wisdom. Truth being with the emotional response automatically. So, and here we are. So this God was cut off from being our influence. But then the intelligent animal came, saw the human condition, and made their own humans. That's us, white people. White people are the genetic manipulations of the original humans made by this incomplete God, in which his father and mother are taking over as being our influences for him until he completes himself. Because of the first separation in the Son of God, it duplicated itself in humankind, being separated from our intellectual wisdom. But there's a thing that happened to us because of its interference, its interception by the intelligent animal. It decided that it was going to be the influence in opposite of life, influence in opposite of truth and joy, and that's lies, deception, fear. It's fear of loss, the speaking image, and the things that we lust after. That lust fuel comes from this opposite influence. And in order to save human beings, the omnipresent God and his Son decided that we were going to learn, grow, and evolve into our apprenticeship papers. We are direct descendants of of what happened in Godland. That means we have the potential of becoming just like them, which is different from other life forms in the universe. They can't become like the gods that made them. We can, though. We have that gift. But we have to earn our apprenticeship papers and then walk through the apprenticeship of becoming a God self again, because we were separated in early childhood, in which the evil spirit influences fear of truth, fear of its emotional response, fear of self-expression of that emotional response, fear of telling the truth. So it in turn in early childhood tells us that we are to be afraid of the truth because it brings pain when the child expresses for the first time and is rejected for it. So the ego comes in, the masculine element of the evil spirit influence comes in to speak things of fear, the dark feminine element of the evil spirit influence inside people. And what it has one dark emotion, and it's fear. Fear of what, though? Fear of all of our emotional responses. In that way, it keeps us imprisoned, unwilling to tell the truth anymore, because, we think to ourselves, if I self-express and tell my truth, along with its emotional response, we're going to feel rejected. And if I feel rejected, then I'm going to acknowledge myself that I am low self-worth, and that's terrible, a terrible thing for anybody to do. So we avoid it. And in that avoidance, we empty ourselves of the natural need-meeting sense of spiritual fullness we receive from God and His Son when we complete a truth. And that's completing the emotional truth of the self first, then the cognitive stuff, but it all gets transferred through the emotional filters that we have. Now that emotional response, in our reaction to it, goes one of two ways: through life or through the death of emotional life, resulting in the evil that we see in the world. Because what happens when we are with unresolved pain? We get mad. When we get angry, we start calculating heart's thought with anger, and no longer with the good, like the good of empathy and caring and understanding, that stuff. Instead, we get mad and we start fighting with each other, and that eventually ends up into the violence that we see in the world today. But before that, it destroys our relationships in our families, in our friendships, at our workplace, in the community, and just continues. It has been continuing. This is the last life cycle for us to make it. I think we're all the leftovers from the other 4 life cycles, who others have made it off this kindergarten planet of grade 1. We need to get into grade 2, but all we need to do is learn ourselves again. And then we're invited. Letting the person off the hook versus forgiveness. Forgiveness, as if. I haven't met anybody who was able to forgive the pain that others have caused that person. Me included, I don't know. You know what I did do, though? I did let the people who hurt me off the hook. I told them, look, you're off the hook for any pain you caused me. I'm not forgiving you because I'm not forgiving you. That's it. If I can, I can. If I can't, I can't. I don't care if I can or can't. I'm not forgiving you because that's just real for me. I don't know how it is for you and how you do things, but I don't forgive. But I can let go. I mean, let the person off the hook for the harm they've caused. So what does that do? It separates me from blaming that person, and that separates me from that hurt associated with that person. Now the pain is mine. Now I got to deal with it. And no longer blaming, because blaming, I swear to God, is an infection on the infection. Meaning you're already infected with dark spirit. We all are. We're all infected with dark spiritual stuff inside of us that makes us go stupid and hurtful and evil. But blaming and justification, things like that, that's another infection that keeps the open wound open and oozing. So now we're not calculating our heart's thought that, this fucking guy did that, that person did this, I'm going to go get... That kind of thing, that kind of darkness in your... is not there for you to do something. It's there to distract you and confuse you and keep you away from calculating heart's thought with the good. Like meditation, that's occupying your mind and heart's thought. So is being angry at someone. It's occupying your mind and heart's thought. What you want in your moment inside your heart's thought is up to you. If you allow the anger, if you allow the hurt, if you allow the blaming, the justification for your own darkness, what happens in reality is this darkness is being processed inside both cognitive thought process and heart's thought process. They're two at first, but become one when self, if human will, self-expresses and wants to, but remains separated when we're confused like that. And that's the goal of the evil spirit influence, just to keep it separated. It doesn't want to convince us of nothing, doesn't want to get us to do anything. It just wants us separated, so we're not then, therefore, being with the thought of God, the thought of truth and movement, the real word of truth. I'm sorry, the real word of God is what silence speaks to us. This written word, it's what silence speaks to self. That's exactly what's in the keys of knowledge from Jesus. It's nothing else. Depending on an outside anything as your God or God worship, anything, it doesn't matter what it is, and there's so many things. But it's all fake. There's no such thing as a God outside yourself. There's just intelligent animals. That's it. We're intelligent animals, along with the intelligent animal who's hacking the living computer. It's not a god, it's just smart beings. Just like when we evolved. You know how we got smarter from the 1900s, and now we're like geniuses? I forgot my point. Oh, we're still not gods, but to them back then, we're smarter than them, right? So in that sense, we appear to be something that we're not, but just more intelligent. That's what this guy has done. That's what this intelligent animal has done. Intercepted humanity. Community needs, everybody's needs met. Otherwise, we live in Darwinian God worship, where just a few gets their needs met and the rest of us starve to